right into it and start talking about Microsoft Online. And Keith, if you have anything you want to jump in.
Quick question. From a show of hands, how many people are thinking about or looking to migrate sometime maybe this year, next few months? Okay, very good. Very good.
How many know what Microsoft Online is? Okay, great. Last year when we gave this session, I think I had one person kind of said, I think I know what Microsoft Online is. So so how many we're planning on moving? We just saw that. How many have already moved in somewhat? Like they've gone a little bit and they're on a trial or anything? All right, so this is just brand new. Okay, a couple of people. Wonderful. Have you tried our tools at all? Okay, and they're great. They work fantastically. That's a yes. That's a. All right. All right. Well, so when we look at migrations, there's kind of these two main sources: on-premise or hosted. And then on-premise, you have kind of these different sources: Exchange, Domino, GroupWise, or generic Pop IMAP. How many in this room are coming, as they're looking to migrate to Microsoft Online, are coming, and let's just assume everyone in here is here because you are moving to Microsoft Online. How many would be an on-premise migration? You're coming from an on-premise environment. Okay? How many would be hosted? Then either like Pop, some Gmail or something like that. How many would be hosted? Okay, a couple. All right. On the on-premise, how many would be Exchange versus something else? Okay, so mostly Exchange. Domino? Okay, a couple Dominoes. GroupWise? No group. Oh, GroupWise. Okay, there's usually some. So these are the type of sources that we'll have, and we'll spend most of our time talking about the Exchange because that's where we have a lot of the migrations. Another question I actually wanted to ask about. How many in here are looking at doing the migration for their own company? This is something I'm looking to do for myself and my own company. Okay, how many are looking in here because you're going to be working with some other company, either as a consultant or a reseller? About half and half? Okay. That's about what I would expect. So, all right, so as you go in and you talk to these customers or as you're looking at it, I just want to give kind of a couple things to think about kind of just right up front in your planning stages. There's some things you need to kind of work out. And the first thing you're going to work out is where you're coming from, which we talked about, and then what is your strategy for moving? And these are the 5 common strategies that I've seen. And I haven't seen a whole lot of other ones. There may be some other ones if you can think of one, but these are the main ones that I've seen. And I'll just quickly go through them. Kind of on the one side is the quick, what we call the greenfield big bang migration. And we've seen this with some customers where they just say, you know what, we're just going to throw everything away. We're going to go directly to Microsoft Online. We're going to provision all 700 users on Microsoft Online. We'll send out an email and say, here you go. You're on, get onto Outlook and you'll be happy. That's kind of at the one end of the extreme. Kind of the next step up is what we have in is end user big bang migration. It's very similar where the administrator just provisions everybody and says, okay, look, we're on Microsoft Online. But he then turns around and gives the end users tools or processes by which they can copy their own data on up. Usually it's just like, okay, here's a process by which you can upload your PST files, or maybe here's a tool that you can run that would copy mail into the environment or some process, things like that. Kind of in the middle that we've seen, and this is now we're kind of getting more into kind of some of the enterprise migrations, would be kind of minimal migration, where the administrator would say, okay, we're going to bring everybody up. We're going to migrate some content. We'll bring over maybe the last 90 days or maybe your calendar, but we're not going to bring over everything because maybe there might be bandwidth constraints or things like that. Then you get into the quick migration, but it's a full migration, and this is the 4th one on over where the administrator says, okay, we're bringing everybody on up. We're going to bring everything on over, but we're going to just do it as fast as we can. We're going to come in. We're going to spend 3 or 4 days over the weekend. We'll just make it a long weekend, and we're just going to plow through it until everyone gets on over. And then the final one is the classic migration, which is typically the way that you've done your on-premise migrations, where you say, okay, we're going to bring over a few people, and then we'll bring over a few more people, and we'll have coexistence, and then we'll just kind of roll it out over a period of time, and then eventually we'll be done. And those are kind of the 5 main strategies. You need to go through and kind of pick which one fits. I can't tell you that one's better than the other than I have seen all of these. I have seen every one of these in Microsoft Online. In fact, we're right in the middle with a customer this weekend who is starting this last one. Our very first customer was a big bang migration, and I've seen everything right in between all of that. So those are all just kind of valid. Also, during the planning stages, there's some other things to consider, and I wanted to just think about this. We've seen just a lot of people who have gone through the migrations, and it's like after they went through the migrations, what were the things that if they could go back, would they have thought about, if they could go back, what would they have thought about more? And so this list is actually by taking a look at some of those customers. So one thing that, just be sure that you're aware of the differences from what is your online environment into what's in Exchange Online. So if you're coming from Exchange, there's some differences from what you have, especially if you're coming from Domino. I know we had a couple people said they're from Domino. This is extremely important because you're going to be shifting not only to online, but also shifting your, kind of your experience. So this is some of the high things that, high-level things that we don't have. We don't have public folders. Distribution list management is different. How you manage resource mailboxes, how you manage share folders and mail forwarding. These are things that are different in online. Think about what are you doing with your mobile devices. Consider that before you kind of jump into this. Do you have to, think about your archive? What about offboarding? And, do you already have a filtering solution? Again, where we got this list from is we went out there and we looked at people who had done migrations, and we went back and said, okay, what were the things you tripped up on? And it was kind of because they hadn't gone through and thought about these things during the planning phase. So some more things, mail-enabled applications. This is extremely important if you're coming from Domino, because Domino might have a lot of mail-enabled applications. But also we've seen this a lot where customers will have, some application built on MAPI or on web services or based on SMTP, and then they move up to the cloud, and then they're like, well, wait a second, what happened to it? What's going to happen? So how much bandwidth are you going to use? And then also think about your plan for your end users. What's going to happen to them? We do have a client, which I'll talk about later on. Currently, we do require Outlook 2007. How many in here have Outlook 2007 deployed today? How many are Outlook 2003? Okay. So in the summer of this year, I think in about 2 months, we will be deploying support for Outlook 2003 on our back-end servers. So this statement right now where you're upgrading to Outlook 2007, that's true today, but we're changing that in about, like I said, in about a month or two. So think about that, and also think about passwords. This has really been a big issue for customers. After they've upgraded, they've got all these passwords that they've got to get out there, and so they just needed to, they didn't think about it, and so it's like, how are you going to do that? So again, all of these, the reason why I'm going through this list is I just want you to have this list so that when you go to deploy, you don't find out afterwards about these things. And so one thing we've done is we've actually made a toolkit, a planning toolkit. If you go to www.microsoft.com/map, it's basically a wizard that will ask you all of these questions. It'll say, do you have applications? How many users do you have? What's your bandwidth? And all of this. And it kind of will go through all of these things so that you think about them beforehand. And so I'd recommend you do that. The two other tools I recommend you do is a customer discovery test and a customer acceptance test. And what a customer discovery test is something you can just do right away. Is you just say, if you're looking at Microsoft Online, just get on it, sign up for a trial, go on, get some end users, have them give it a try, and just find out what it is. Just give them a list of features. Create a conference room, try it, see what it does. Create a SharePoint list, try it, see what it does. Send an email, respond to a meeting, try Outlook, try OA, and so kind of go through it and discover what are all the things. And what we've had is we've had customers who have just kind of jumped in and they didn't do this discovery. Afterwards, they're kind of, they go, well, wait a second, we didn't realize that OA looked like this or had this or whatever. So, and then the customer acceptance test is actually right before you do your big migration. You have a very specific list of things that you have your end users, several end users in your pilot go through and check off, yes, this meets my needs, this meets my needs. Because you don't want to have the Monday after where all of a sudden they're on board and they're like, whoa, what's going on? So, all right, that's planning. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I want to dive right into the, kind of the technical stuff.